INEC decides. Kogi poll continues. How due to be replaced. Will hold fresh primaries. That's from the APC. That's on pages 2 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Other stories here. Great Green Wall Platform. That's on page 15. Nigeria is being referred to as a Great Green Wall Platform. You could find details on page 15. Buhari extends loot recovery to Yar'Adua's tenure, Obasanjo's era. That's on page 3 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Buhari extends loot recovery to Yar'Adua's tenure, Obasanjo's era. That's on pages 3. Of course, we're still keeping tab on the Chibok girls. It's been 590 days since over 200 schoolgirls were kidnapped by Boko Haram in Chibok. Other stories, this is from the editor's choice. Buhari, Obasanjo for HID Awolowo's burial today. That's on page 3 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Senators divided over oil subsidy. That's on page 8. CBN reduces interest rate to 11%. That's on pages 21 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Mr. Benjamin?
Okay, let's quickly take a look at the National Mirror. INEC asked APC to fill Audu's vacuum as Kogi supplementary election holds December 5. Birth control motion tears reps apart. Northern lawyers say it is anti-Islam. Population data shows Nigeria will hit 433 million in 2050. Lawmakers probe Chime over new government house road contracts. Lecturers more corrupt than politicians. You can get that on page 9. That's coming from the rector. Nigeria risks losing $4.5 billion to INDC non-submission. Okay, I can see Prince is reacting to some of these, but we'll quickly wrap it up. Newswatch Times, INEC is December 5 for Kogi supplementary poll. And of course, on the other stories, all similar. CBN reduces NPR by 2%, cuts CRR by 5%, and anti-Saraki senators fall Senate decision to probe tribunal chairman. Well, Prince Eshet, just to quickly wrap up, bet control motion tears reps apart. Nothing lawmakers sees it as anti-Islam. Quickly, what do you think about it?
I think the best thing to do is this. If you want to come up with birth control measures, it should be scientific.
Nothing traditional.
Absolutely, because if it is scientific, everybody will see the statistics and this and that. It will have nothing to do with religion. But if it is not scientifically based, there is a tendency that it is either religious or traditional sentiments will now flow.
Well, they've always said...
But we should not forget our Chibok girls, please.
It's 590 days. We're still keeping tab.
Well, the pen is mightier than the sword. That shows the power of the media. That's it on newspaper review this morning. Thank you very much, Mr. Eshet.
Thank you very much
for your very thought-provoking analysis. When we come back, we'll be taking a look at a very heartwarming and thought-provoking issue on AM Chat this morning. Stay tuned.
Well, this is for the people.
Africa Meets Reggae and World Music International Festival 2015 presents Back to the Roots. Live at Jack Fashek, Victor Eshet and the Mandators, Raskimono, Orit Wiliki, Stella Monier, T-Mac, Pasuma, Burnavoy, Orisa Femi, Righteous Man, all the way from the USA, LJ, and from Ghana, Black Rasta, and many more. 27th November 2015, Ember Creek, 32 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. Table for 2, 70,000 naira. Table for 4, 120,000 naira. Table for 6, 150,000 naira. And table for 10, 200,000 naira. Time 8 p.m. People's Show, 28th November 2015. Hockey Pitch, National Stadium, Surulere, Lagos. Regular 1,000 naira. VIP 5,000 naira without table. 10,000 naira with table. Time 7 p.m. till Monas Hall. Contact 0801 722 8155 and 0818 611 2758. Host comedian Kofi Daguru. Africa Meets Reggae. Get your ticket online at www.nigerticketshop.com or our outlets or Zone Cinemas, Yaba, Silverbird Galleria at Victoria Island. Party Perfect at Ikeja City Mall. Party Perfect at the Palms, Lekki.
Partly supported by MITV. Powered by Mystic Records USA.
Special needs is a term used in clinical diagnostic and functional development to describe individuals who require assistance for disabilities that may be medical, mental, or psychological. Special needs are commonly defined by what a child can't do, by milestones unmet, foods banned, activities avoided, experiences denied. These minuses hit families hard and may make special needs seem like a tragic designation. Some parents will always mourn their child's lost potentials, and many conditions become more troubling with time. Other families may find that their child's challenges make triumphs sweeter, and that weaknesses are often accompanied by amazing strengths. Children with learning disabilities are typically as smart or even smarter than their peers. What makes them different is they may have difficulty reading, writing, spelling, reasoning, recalling, and or organizing information if left to figure things out by themselves or if taught in unconventional ways. For any two families of children with special needs, they might have little in common. And this is because there are always different concerns ranging from medical issues, behavioral issues, developmental issues, learning issues, and mental health issues. Although every special need child is different and every family is unique, there are some common concerns that link parents of challenged kids, including getting appropriate care and accommodations, promoting acceptance in the extended family, school, and community, planning for an uncertain future, and adjusting routines and expectations. Parents of children with special needs are often more flexible, more compassionate, stubborn, and resilient than other parents.
We're back now on the flip side of the program. We're still talking about education in Nigeria. Basically, that's what we do every Wednesday. And at this point in time, I'd like to say that there are several children in Nigeria who are faced with several special needs. What do NGOs do? NGOs, what does the government do to ensure that these children are actually put in the right places? What do they do to ensure that these children are put in the right space? Well, we're talking about caring for children with special needs in schools, the role of teachers, expectations of parents. And we do have a guest with us here in the studio in person of Mrs. Nneka Obiagu. She is a parent and an advocate. It's good to have you on the program. A very good morning to you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Special children, special needs. Tell us what goes through your mind for you to have allocated special time for special children.
Well, being a parent of a child with a special need is not something that you receive training for. It's not something that you ever prepare yourself for. It's something that life brings, and you have to deal with it as you are confronted with it. So you have to put on a totally different mindset to what it means to be parenting ordinarily, and also now add on, okay, I have a child with a special need. How do I start addressing those special needs to make sure that I have a child who has some functionality in society depending on what the need is, and who hopefully in the long run is able to not only contribute to society but also to is self-reliant and is able to take care of themselves to the next level.
Beautiful. Now, I was going to be talking about what the roles of NGOs are. There are several NGOs in Nigeria who are advocating for special children to be cared for. Every child is your child, whether the child is special or, Now, what are the roles of NGOs? What do you think NGOs should do to ensure that every child with a special need is given abrupt and adequate attention? Especially in Nigeria.
Yes, thank you very much for that, because I now also happen to run charity and NGO as well as a result of my son's experience and looking and finding that there's a dearth, in Nigeria. We have very strong cultural ideas of stigmatization and discrimination against individuals and children, especially with special needs, especially when it comes to education. We run an educational advocacy group. Our people, even the parents and our community and society at large, don't believe that children with special needs have any value, don't believe that children should be educated. But we do happen to be signatory to lots of treaties that cover the child's right to education. And we seem to forget that when child's right to education also covers children with special needs. So you find out that in countries all over the world, you have government that subsidizes programs, and they have laws that mandate tailored education for children with special needs. Because a child has a special need doesn't mean that the child is not capable of learning. The only thing that happens is that they learn differently. So we have individualized education programs for children with special needs, and most countries have a tailored national curriculum for this. We don't have this particularly in Nigeria. What we do have are pockets of private organizations that provide educational needs for children with special needs. I would say, though, that in our inquiry in Nigeria, we did find that Lagos State does have what they call their disability education, but like most things with Nigeria, it is underfunded, it is overpopulated, the very few trainers and teachers overwhelmed with the sheer amount of children that have to come, because they are in public schools. Lagos State has about 30-something of them, but there's no real learning going on because it's not structured properly.
Okay, let me trickle this question down to the teachers again. For instance, in Lagos State, if you're to look through Nigeria and then you're trickling down to Lagos State, would you say it's an attitudinal problem? For instance, if I have a nephew or a niece who has a special need, I wouldn't devote as much attention as I'd devote to a niece who I think is, fit and of course ready to face life. Is this attitudinal? If it is attitudinal, how did we allow it to get so far to the point that we are so insensitive to the needs of these special children?
It is attitudinal. It's cultural. A lot of people come with cultural baggage. So I'll give you an example. There's a school in Lagos State, one of the public units that have an inclusive unit that we work with, and it's in a public school. Now, the principal of the school, who is supposed to be overseeing the entire school, happens to have very strong cultural convictions about children with special needs. It's this, it's that. He doesn't come near the children. He doesn't want them to be seen. He refers to them as those people. So if he has anything to do with the teacher, because there's just one teacher in the unit with 44 children with different special needs, he stands afar and he peeps and he calls him, so he can be, please move those children before I come in there. We seem to have very strong cultural suspicion about things that have scientific explanations, and that hampers everything that they want to do. So you see a teacher that is supposed to be teaching children with special needs, and I'm talking about the public ones now, and they're wielding a cane. Don't touch me because you will infect me with your special needs. So I don't want to have a child that has special needs. So we find out that most times we spend so much time trying to spread awareness, educate parents, because parents do this. Our children go through ridiculous abuse you won't even believe at the hands of their caregivers. So we start with the parents, we start with the teachers. There are umbrella organizations that try to do as much as they can as civil society. But we can only do so much. I don't always like to say, what does the government do? But this is something that our government has to take a step towards. And as parents, we're trying to get ourselves together so we are a formidable voice, and we can use that to speak more loudly about our children's educational needs.
Now, looking at the situation we have, when you talk about special children with special needs, you mentioned something about stigmatization, but we'll come to that. We've just been joined in the studio by Mrs. Anu Shebanjo. Did I get it right? Okay, thank you for joining us on the program. And of course, Mrs. Obiago has been doing justice to that, but we'll also take a teacher's perspective as we go on. You talked about stigmatization. Now, first of all, let's share your experience. What are those psychological trauma experience a parent goes through, and how would you want to counsel a parent to to try to coaster along, until the child gets to a particular age?
It is so broad. It is so broad, and different individuals have different perspectives. I have a can-do, focused, spiritual perspective to everything. So at the point of my son's regression, my son is on the autism spectrum. At the point of his regression, he was a typically developing child that regressed. And you have to get your head around seeing a child that regresses, and your concern should be, what can I do to help my child? But we find that most times we parents, because as I said about stigma, we go through periods of denial, refusal to accept what is before us, start looking for who is responsible in the village or the neighbor. Then you find out that most people now start hiding the children. Most of the people, especially from indigent families that we work with, because of the general ignorance and discrimination, people start hiding the children. People start maltreating the children. And we try to speak to parents and say, listen, a diagnosis of special needs is not the end of the world. Always put it before you that this is still a child, a gift from God given to you. It just happens that the child needs additional care. It is stressful. It is challenging. But, in local parlance, we always say that you have to stiffen your spine and you have to face up to your challenge and you have to start doing what needs to be done. So when we speak, we say reach out. I surrounded myself with information. It is key. You have to have the child assessed to understand, because regardless of whatever special need it is, what we know is that early intervention is key. And you can never really start intervening if you don't understand what is wrong. So first assessment, early intervention. Even if you don't have the resources, start yourself. I did that. Start yourself to work with the child. Reach out to other parents and just keep your focus on God. It is your child. It's your child's story. Nobody will tell you how it ends.
Okay, from the teacher's perspective, thanks for joining us. She just mentioned something earlier on that in some public schools where you have this kind of challenge, we see the teachers being very funny in terms of not wanting really to relate very closely with these children. Let's share your experience from the teacher's perspective.
Well, I would like to say that from the teacher's perspective, like special needs teachers, they don't really have problems because they actually know what to do. But coming to regular school, I want to say that even their awareness is low. Teachers are not aware. For example, when we say special needs, people will just cast their minds to children with maybe hearing impairment, visual impairment, physical challenges and all that. But we are looking at children with children with intellectual challenges that it does not show on face for some of them. For a child with dyslexia, for a child with autism spectrum disorders, for a child with dyscalculia, for a child with all sorts, with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, all these things, they don't show on face. Now school struggle with these children. They struggle with them. The child is naughty, this child is restless, this child doesn't know what to do. As a matter of fact, they themselves, they are confused. I mean, regular school teachers, I think there's a need for awareness to let them know that when you're working with a set of children in your class, when you see that some children have learning challenges, some of them have writing problems, some of them have poor motor skills, and all this, these are the things basic things that regular teachers, they should know. It is not for them to work with these children, but to be able to pinpoint, to be able to know at first sight that yes, this child has special needs. This child has special needs, and then they direct them to the right channel. They contact people that are supposed to work with these children. So the main challenge is with the regular school teachers, because a lot of these children, they're in regular schools. A lot of them are in regular schools. Most of them, as she rightly said, a lot of parents are in denial. No, my child is okay. My child can cope in regular school situation and all that. So they take them to regular schools. And these schools, they struggle with these children. They don't know what to do with them.
Let's look at the best case scenario. For instance, a child attends a particular school, which is not a regular school. Let's say private school, a highly expensive private school. Now, the role of the teachers, I mean, enormous. I can't overemphasize on this. But do you think it's possible to build up confidence and boldness in these children with special needs? And if a teacher needs to build up confidence and boldness in these children, how do you do that? Because at the start of this conversation, we did say that time and chance happens to everybody. How do you build up these kids, the boldness and confidence in them to prepare them for their future and destiny as a teacher?
Well, as a teacher, there's a need for a teacher, even as a regular school teacher, not a special needs teacher now, there is a need for them to have the basic knowledge of a child with special needs. It is when you know that this child has a special needs that you know how to work with. Some children actually have, because I've been to some regular schools, that some teachers there said the children have special needs. And I looked at the children, I had like a one-on-one interaction with them. I discovered that they just need psychotherapy. They just have to be talked to. You can do it. You can do it.
Some kind of encouragement.
Exactly. That is what some of them actually need. But if the teachers themselves, they see the children as being naughty, as being restless, as being not being able to talk to and all that, they have most of the time they abandon them in regular school situation. That is it. They leave them to their world. They're in their world. They're on their own. Except for few schools that have SEND units where there are facilitators that stay with them in class, or where they pull them out to do one-on-one sessions with them and return them to the classes. Most schools don't have this.
Thank you very much. Madam, I'm very curious. At what point in time would a parent, especially the mother, begin to notice that my child is a special child? Because again, we've seen some parents very careless. They end up getting to know these things when it's very too late. So at what point do you get to know and you begin to act fast?
It varies because there are various special needs. Something like Down syndrome, you can even know before delivery or at delivery. You can tell because some people do some testings. So you can tell about certain special needs before delivery. Then an observant mother, depending on also the special need, can also see if your child is not sitting when the child is supposed to be sitting, if the child is not cooing where the child is supposed to be cooing. You start looking to see mother's instinct. Is there, what happens is that most times we're not even aware of what the children's developmental milestones should be. So we're not paying attention to if a child is 9 months, is the child making noises? Is the child crawling properly? Is the child being able to carry their head? Can a child sit up? Depending on the special needs. There are some of them that you really can't tell. Some things might be happening internally, with the child's GI system, and you can't tell that it's the beginning of a regression, and you can't say it. But the key thing is that we need to be more attentive. We get so busy, we get carried away. We're not being attentive. Not that being attentive prevents special needs. Don't get me wrong on that. But at least to be able to spot the signs early enough, we need to acquaint ourselves with what the children's milestones are so we can watch out for them. And when they are not met, seek aggressive intervention immediately, because at times you go to doctors, they tell you, well, it's typical. If some boys talk and they stop talking, it's normal. Run with your mother's instinct. There's something wrong. Keep pushing till you get to the crux of it.
All right, thank you very much. I think we need to finally get from the teacher's perspective again, in terms of training, because this is like a special field right now. What kind of training do you require? I don't think there is a subject in the universities, especially from the medical perspective, but under education, I don't know if there's such training to deal with special children. But what should be those basic skills the teacher need to have? Should it be acquired or, of course, through study?
I want to say that formally, like in Nigeria, in our universities, there are no institutions that can actually train you to because out of curiosity, I went to one of Nigerian universities to study educational psychology at the master's level. At the end, I did it. At the end of the day, I found out that I didn't get what I actually wanted. So I think there are so many courses online that that one can actually venture into, that can develop oneself as a special teacher. There are some certifications with all these courses. You can get certified with them. Most importantly, working with these children. As a matter of fact, working with them, some children will teach you the approach you use to work with them.
Okay.
Well, along the line, I will not say that special teachers should just limit themselves to working with the children without getting basic certifications, courses online and all that. But when you work with these children, you get more skills. And then most of them, because each child is unique, and then the way the approach you use for this one might not work for this one. Exactly. The approach you use for this child, for some children you might use situation, for some you might use PECs, for some you might use your words and all that. Different approaches work for these children differently. So by the time you work with them, you get more to know them. And when you work with a child, if you have another child with similar symptoms, you can just remember, I will use this, it's work. Like sometimes when you ignore, when you also sort of things, and some things you can actually go back to them and say, I've used this method before, it's worked for me, I can actually go back
so
to it.
It's basically all about strategic applications.
Exactly. It's a constant state of flux. There are no statics in it. Everything is different, everybody's different strategy. Yes.
The final word from you. To parents.
To parents.
Special children.
It is your child's story. Nobody can tell you how it ends. Run with your child's story. Become an expert in your child's need. Early intervention is key. That's it.
From the teacher?
Teachers too. If I want to go to regular school teachers, special teachers actually know what to do. Seek more knowledge. Awareness is not there. People are not going to create awareness in your schools. You yourself, you can develop yourself. That the children I'm working with, I'm having challenges with these children in these areas. Go online, Google, and learn how to work with these children to make things easy for you and for the child to be beautiful.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Anu Shabanjo. Thank you very much. They said the reward of teachers is in heaven. And Mrs. Ineka Obiago, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's still AM Chat. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
program is still AM Chat, and we're on to the conclusive part of this discussion. We're still talking about education. Now the question is the environment of the child, where the child learns, where the child attends school, where the child eats, and so on. How safe is it? You all know that when a learning environment is very conducive for the child, I mean, the maximum output of that child is very efficient and very effective. At this point, we're talking about how safe it is for a child in school. How safe is your child's school? And we do have a special guest here in the studio with us, Mrs. Idorin Arulobu. She is the founder, Movement Against Negligence in Schools, MANIS. It's good to have you on the program again. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're welcome. So let's quickly charge you on with that same question. How safe is your child in school?
It's a tough one. You know, a lot is going on in the schools. We decided to set up an advocacy group as a result of a personal experience. And along the line, we got to hear of similar stories that also affected other people. Basically, our child got ill in a boarding school, and then she came down with malaria that degenerated to cerebral malaria as a result of lack of duty of care and negligence basically in the school. Eventually, 5 days later, she passed on. Now, we got to hear of several other stories, such as ours. You know, typically, when people die or there are situations, people just bury their dead and try to move on. So when we found out that this evil was actually going on, we decided to set up this movement, and things have been coming out. Now, what we are saying is this: we just want to sensitize the public that this is going on. And so we should come together with the schools to try to make sure that the children are safe and healthy in schools. They say that children are the future. It is only living children that can form a part of that future. So we need to safeguard them and make sure they are safe in schools. For instance, a child comes down with an illness. Who monitors, to make sure that the child goes to the clinic, the child takes the necessary drugs, and they are being monitored to make sure that if she's getting better, he or she's getting better or not, if she has to be taken to another health facility, who does that? Unfortunately, I have to keep going back to my story because that's what started all of this. A child that was ill and moved her seat from the front of the class to the back of the class for 3 days, and the teacher later told us that he didn't know it was that serious, means that that system was not proactive enough. We are saying that malaria is preventable, it is treatable, and so no child should be exposed to having to be maimed or even die from a disease that can be controlled.
Now, if I were looking at your mission statement and vision for MANIS, how would you describe your mission statement?
Well,
first of all, your mission before your vision.
I'll probably do a combination.
Okay.
Because we are just out to make sure that the environment is safe for the children. And how do we do this? By creating the awareness. People have to be sensitized to know that this is going on. That when you take your child to a school, you put the child in loco parentis, meaning that the child would be taken care of the way you would have if they were ill at home, or if anything happens, because it's not just illness, it could be accidents, it could be while they are playing, that if anything goes wrong, you wouldn't just watch the child at home. So that's what we are about, basically, to create that awareness and sensitize the general public about how to.
Okay, in the course of your, would I say it's more like a revolution to enlighten parents and the schools? How do you? What should be the basic conditions, terms and conditions to establish a school? Because we've seen a lot of schools and they say, "Oh, government approved." But when you get into these school premises, I tell you, even the environment from the exterior part of it, it tells you that this environment is not safe. Now, with your experience, what should be those basic conditions for established in a school, putting into consideration the child's safety and welfare?
This even goes beyond just the safety and health. It goes up to the fact of, taking care of even the environment for learning. Is the environment conducive for learning? We have schools that are next to shopping malls. Maybe calling it a mall makes it sound touche. But we are saying that we have schools next to markets, and we know how our markets are. We have schools that are, in the same apartment block as a mechanic workshop. So that tells you that that kind of environment, first of all, is not conducive for learning. And then to the safety aspect, we are saying that, when you get a number of children together, which you are supposed to take care of, you must have processes. You must have protocols. If a child falls ill, what is the first thing that we do? And the whole system must know those processes. What warrants you taking the child to the hospital? Do you have an affiliation to a big hospital if the child develops serious complications? These things sound commonplace, but I tell you, most schools don't have. It came out from the forum which we just had on Friday, and I know a number of teachers that said to me, I have to run back to prepare my processes. We don't have processes. A lot of people would typically, start praying, and I don't have anything, against prayers. But there are some things you need to do. We don't need God to come down and give a child malaria drugs. You don't need God to come down and ensure that children take their drugs. You don't need God to come down for you to call the parents, because that's very important. At what point do you call the parents? If a child falls ill, for instance, when do you let the parents know? 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I still got a story of a family that lost their son in a boarding school sometime last year. And when the child took ill, I understand he kept saying, because he was an asthmatic patient, and they typically know how to manage the situation. So he kept saying, call my mom, call my mom. And they did not call the mom. Then the child died. 9 good hours after that child passed on, the parents were not aware. So we need to come out with these things. At what point, for instance, do you involve the parents? And if you ask me, it's immediately. Just call the parents, because most of us know what we take for malaria, for instance. Malaria is endemic in this area, so it's not rocket science. As a matter of fact, it is when you go to the hospital, they will ask you, what have you taken? Because they probably know you would have tried, while I'm not advocating self-medication, but I'm saying that it is not such a big deal anymore around here.
Idurian, from all the points you've highlighted, especially the scenarios you've given, it seems everything is just boiling down to negligence. Now, like you're sitting down here, you're creating more awareness. There are campaigns, I'm sure a few of them, even if they might not be sending out very strong messages, but I'm sure a few persons actually campaigning for negligence in schools to be avoided. Now, for schools who are neglecting their duties on the child, whether the child is special or whether the child is, a normal child, what do you think there should be stiff penalties? What would you advise the government or the people to do? Should there be a particular penalty attached to a school who is negligent on a child and something evil happens to that child? What are you advising? What are you saying?
I just think that, like you said, when we come out to start talking, first of all, the schools will also realize that the eyes of the world are on them. And I must say at this point that I'm not strictly blaming schools for everything. For instance, parents have a role to play as well. If you know that your child has a certain condition or needs to take certain drugs, it behoves you to let the school know, so that they know what to do. It is only when they don't do what they are supposed to do, that is when negligence comes in. And yes, in the forum we had on child in our 2015 Child Health and Safety Week, we had the Assistant Commissioner of Police in attendance, and he said something very interesting. He said that what we are actually calling negligence, in some cases, are actually criminal. There is a level of negligence you show that is actually criminal, when you don't do what you are supposed to do. Because don't forget, the children are in your care. You must take care of them. Children, United Nations says that children from birth to 18 are people who are termed as children. That means that decisions are largely taken on behalf of this group of people. It also means that where decisions are not well taken, that their future could be made or marred. So we need to take good decisions on behalf of these children.
Would you be advocating that we should take this at the top, from the Minister of Education, or possibly at the legislature arm? There should be laws, enacted towards this line, because once there are no governing laws, you understand, it becomes very, very difficult to indict anybody. So I would suggest that in your subsequent campaign, you should be able to make a position paper to the National Assembly to make it a law. I think this will go along.
I agree with you totally.
Okay.
And that is why when we had our summit, we invited all stakeholders involved in the education of the child. We called the parents, we called ministries of education, Ministry of Health, we called road safety, we called the police, and school owners themselves.
I'm sure you have a communique.
Oh, definitely.
You need to send it to the National Assembly. But with this kind of situation also, there's a need to beef up the parents, because you have this PTA. I know when I was in the boarding school, Parents Association, what effort have you done in this line? Because once, it's not just a question of, I remember what happened in King's College Annex, Lagos here. It was all over the news, where even there was no quality water to take within the school. And it created a lot of media brouhaha, which was a lot of concern. Now, how do you intend to strengthen this relationship, the PTA?
We start by what we are doing, sensitization. And anywhere I get the chance, I always tell people that your voice is important. And like you mentioned, PTAs are the starting point for every parent. If you do not attend PTAs, decisions will be taken on your behalf, and they are binding. Okay. And like you also rightly mentioned, we are looking at a situation where we will get actual laws, legislation, for the rights of these children. Because children in this country, I'm sorry to say, are largely the most ignored set of people. Yet they are the ones that need most care. And a nation that does not take care of its young people does not have a future, because they say that children are the future.
Wow. So we just hope that with the effort you have made, we will be able to get to the promised land. Well, thank you very much for coming. A final word for school proprietors out there, and of course the parents.
Well, my final word would be that please let everybody get back to the drawing board to have proper procedures set up in the event of accidents or serious illnesses. Let there be procedures, and then of course call the parents when the child is in distress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Arilo Gill. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've actually spoken so much about how safe the child is in school. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, that's how far we can go on this segment. On this note, we'll take another short break to bring you another segment of the program, which is Morals and Etiquettes with Sidat. Stay tuned.
As the wicked carried us away, captivity required from us a song. Oh, can we singing Alpha song in a strange land? As the wicked carried us away, captivity required from us
About building sense of empathy from their perspective. That is, you are placing yourself in their shoes and you feel what they are feeling. Sit back as we go on this break to show you how to build your sense of empathy. We will
use your imagination. Actively imagining what someone else might be suffering can help you empathize with them. 2. Treat people as being important. Don't take people into stereotypical groups. Each person is an individual and comes with a set of flaws and strengths. 3. Listening is the most effective way you can demonstrate empathy to other people. 4. Open up. Listening is not enough. Opening up emotionally is an incredibly difficult and brave thing to do, and it will deepen the connection with another person. This doesn't mean you have to spill your whole life at homeless shelter, even tutor school children.
The word empathy means you understanding your fellow
about building sense of empathy from their perspective. That is, you are placing yourself in their shoes and you feel what they are feeling. Sit back as we go on this break to show you how to build your sense of empathy. We will
use your imagination. Actively imagining what someone else might be suffering can help you empathize with them. 2. Treat people as being important. Don't take people into stereotypical groups. Each person is an individual and comes with a set of flaws and strengths. 3. Listening is the most effective way you can demonstrate empathy to other people. 4. Open up. Listening is not enough. Opening up emotionally is an incredibly difficult and brave thing to do, and it will deepen the connection with another person. This doesn't mean you have to spill your whole life at homeless shelter, even tutor school children.
The word empathy means you understanding your fellow
All right, we're sorry for the break in that package. Moral and etiquettes will come your way some other time. Basically just talking about what you need to do to remodel your life. I quite appreciate that topic, and of course that goes on to express more of our slogan today, Wofai.
Time and chance. It happens to everyone.
Definitely.
The sky is just too large for two flying birds to collide.
Definitely. So destiny is not all about competition. If you're thinking that you cannot actually achieve your set objectives in life, and your brother, your neighbor is excelling, please, there is no need for any altar of jealousy or hatred or envy. You need to champion your own cause. Okay? So once you bring in your own efforts in life, look out, explore your own opportunities. I'm sure Wofai has more to add to
Of
that.
course, I totally agree with you. I affirm with everything you've said. When you see someone who seems to be achieving so much in life, I think you should just pull closer to the person and then get to learn some nitty-gritties. What are you doing exactly? How do you do the things you do to ensure that you excel in different fields? Excuse me, okay, I'm beginning to choke here. How do you do the things you do to ensure that you excel instead of just sit back and trying to pull the person down? Because, I mean, turning off somebody's candle doesn't even make yours shine brighter.
Definitely. I remember one of my lecturer who is a psychologist in the university, he said if you're ugly, you don't need to envy anyone. Write a petition to Baba.
That's another one.
All right.
But if you're supposed to instill, excuse me again, if you're supposed to instill hope in a few persons out there with everything going on in the nation's polity, what would you say to people out there?
Well, basically, one thing you must know is that life is interesting, and you must be able to take the bull by the horn to achieve what you want to achieve. Wofai, I think when we leave here now, I'll take you to ShopRite. you need a hot
That's
tea.
going to be a very good treat. Thank you very much. He's such a nice person. You're always a nice man, so
All right.
it's expected.
Well, it's been wonderful
Yes,
on
yes.
AM Chat. I've had a wonderful time. I've also learned a lot about special children with special needs, safety, negligence in schools. I think it's been very educative today.
It's been very educative. It's been very educative. Particularly have learned that it's very, very important to care for a child. No child should be neglected. Whether the child has a special needs or the child is very normal, you should never neglect the child. And of course, the teachers in different schools, they need to take their responsibilities more seriously. NGOs, government, more or less look into all of these issues and ensure that every child is properly cared for. It's been very fantastic today.
Well, from all of us here, have a beautiful day. We'll see you same time, same station. And finally from Wofai.
My name is Wofai Samuel. Thank you so much for staying tuned to the program. We'll see you some other time. Have a pleasant day and, of course, make it a very productive day. God bless you. Bye.
Goodbye.
I love your body and soul. I love your body and soul. What's good for the goose is good for the ganga. They will let me know. If anything is wrong, let me put them in order. Each and everywhere I go. Sexy lady, them and dance to my songs and my melody. Sure they take a ride with me. Let me give you all the things you need. I love the way the girl them love me and give me everything to satisfy me. I love the way the girl them are gonna pour me some like kiss and caress me. Oh, but today, each and every day I dey celebrate. If I make small money, I dey throw away, oh, don't limit. I'm making hits on the hits. Give it dance all the hits. I'm so legit. I know they dance great. Edu kuya paleni gbogbo wọn corporate. Oh, mo ṣe bá wọn máa látíká. Tẹ bá bá wọn sòwò pọ̀, ẹ máa ní láti já. Ìgboro fẹ́ ní ọwọ́ epo lọ́ọ́ máa ráyé lá. Wait a minute, má ṣe mẹ́dán lé wọn lérè. Wọ́n bá ṣe wèdè fúnra wọn lọ́ máa sáré wọn lé. Àwọn tó pariwo tó rí bòtò. Mo ti mẹ́rẹ̀ẹ́rẹ́ lórí jẹ́fẹ́ mi, mo ti gbẹ́rẹ́rẹ́. Yeah. country night. Now my music they cause go be oh, yeah, Lord no. I love your body and soul. What's it good for the goose? It's good for the ganga. If you let me know, if anything is wrong, let me put them in order. Each and everywhere I go, sexy lady, them I dance to my songs and my melody. Sure they take it back with me. Let me give you all the things you need. Give it to me now, yeah, my baby sorry. I got this special feeling now. So you gonna go, yeah, DJ turn it up. Shawty go down low. Let the music feel your body and soul. DJ turn it up. Shawty go down low. Yeah, I'm headed to the top. Fighting for my destiny. I love the donor, so I'm some friends and enemy. Anytime you go, say the no too. All of us are no. All the only check them away. All I want, no. I love the way the girl them love me and give me everything to satisfy me. I love the way the girl them mark up for me, some take kiss and caress me. Something there, each and every day I just celebrate. If I make some money, I just throw it. No limits, I make a hit for the hits. Give it dance on the hit. I'm so legit.
I guess somebody will get what kind of movement to see the whole the black wall to ransom. Who they talk about? They talk about black magic. And therefore inside the studio here, in fact I'm talking about smoke clapping and making up like saying they lost. You don't understand? Black magic, you are welcome for inside the studio here. It does drop one brand new track, one jamming track when they call Pass You By. And of course that Pass You By, Black Magic feature Holy Chef Flammy, the musical Taliban for inside the matter. That's why I want to ask this question now. Black how you take start this whole black magic movement, sir?
Black magic, the dream mate, I can't believe. Myself can't believe. I brought on EC. Either way we win, whether or not it's with me. We started off with cash, 100 G's. Mr. CME, God bless you for me. I drew up a scheme, I built up the steam. Push, don't believe, when push comes to shove, your true friends you see. You when they fuck up, I know send you see. I still don't know what kind of girlfriend I need. I just want to succeed.
Hello, what is the state of your health today? You need to get the right medical solutions, whether or not you are weighed down by type of ailment or sickness. For whatever your health challenges are, I strongly suggest for you and your loved ones to consult your doctor today. Join me, Adebimpe Omotayo, on the #1 health talk show on television. Consult your doctor. It's not only revealing, but reassuring. Consult Your Doctor comes up every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. on MITV. Consult Your Doctor, your ticket to good health.
Coming soon on this station.
Exciting and educating. It is the best and first of its kind in Nigeria, Mr. Naija Show. It is a 30-minute TV show that reveals the scope, skills, and process of transforming vehicles to various new models in an unimaginable way. That's the Feel You Up With My Ride segment. Other segments cut across entertainment, business, culture, tourism, and many more areas of life. All to be discussed 5 to 5:30.